Hi, everybody. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Jim over here with Church Windows Software. Welcoming you on in here to our user group webinar. I'm coming to you live on an overcast day here in Columbus, Ohio. I think this is the first day of summer, so welcome in, everyone. Over the next 20 minutes or so, probably not quite that long, we're going to be talking about the personal visits report in the membership module of Church Windows. Before we get started on that, a word about your GoToWebinar control panel that y'all should have on your screens right now. There is a small red button with an arrow on it, usually in the upper left-hand corner of that control panel, that allows you to either minimize or maximize that. Minimizing it opens up a little more room on your monitor there to see what we're talking about in our discussion today. Maximizing it gives you access to the functions therein, specifically the questions part of that control panel. I won't be taking questions as I go through the presentation here today, but it's going to be a short one. I will leave the room open after we're done with the topic here for any questions on that personal visits part of the program or the personal visits report specifically at that time. Also, the other thing I want to point out is that if you own any of our regional training workbooks that we have available for sale from our website, specifically the Membership 201 manual, that the topic that we're covering here today starts on page 36 of that book. That's the text I'll be using to guide the discussion here today. Okay. We're going to be getting into the personal visits report here. I want you to note that we are here in version 19.16.2. That's the current version of Church Windows. We are getting ready to roll out version 20 of Church Windows in the next several months here. We don't have a date yet for that release, but the main focus of version 20 is going to be a pretty significant rewrite of the membership module. So a great deal about the membership module is going to change over the next half a year or so. Specifically, the report that we're going to be talking about today is not going to be one of them. And thank you for letting me know. I forgot to click the button to let you know about, to let you guys see the screen, so that's my mistake. Sorry about that. What was I getting at? The membership personal visits report that we're going to be discussing here in our presentation today is not going to be one of the things that's going to be rewritten in version 20. So this is going to be basically the same even with the next version of Church Windows. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's open up our membership module. Okay, so the personal visits portion of Church Windows, which you can launch from this button right here. It's capable of keeping track of all visits and personal contacts made with the people participating in the church, no matter whether they are in the members file or the visitors file, so either members or visitors. You may record the date of that personal visit. You may record who on your staff made that personal visit. You can record the reason for that visit, the location, whether it was at their house or at the church, for example, the length of the visit, and a date for any follow-up. And in addition to that, you can record comments, whether it's grief counseling, marriage counseling, anything along those lines. You can record notes in there. Also, because of the sensitive nature of some of the things that might be involved in this, I do also want to point out that it is a separate security section for Church Windows. So you can have folks who have access to everything in the membership module except personal visits, for example. It is a separately secured part of the Church Windows program in terms of usernames and passwords. So you can very strictly control who gets access to the visits section. If you do use usernames and passwords, anybody who does not have access to the visits part of the program will not be able to see any of the stuff we're talking about in our class here today. Okay. So the report that we're going to be discussing here can be accessed from two different places. First one is from the membership module by opening your reports menu here and coming down here and clicking on visits. That takes us to our initial screen where you set the criteria for the report here. We will be discussing all of this in a moment. So that's one place you can get that. The other place is from the personal visits window itself. So if I click on the visits screen, this is the window where you can add a visit by clicking on your little add visit button right up here. Record a brand new visit can be done there. And printing the information on the visits here can be done using that button right there. So two different places you can go to get the same information. Okay. So the type of information that you can generate from this, I'm going to go ahead and use the one from the reports menu for the purposes of our discussion today. All right, so you can print individual visits that you have set up in the system based upon the date of the visit. And that's the default criteria that you see set up here on this window. So this would be all of the personal visits that you have set up for that entire time period if you simply click print from there. So let's take a look at what the format looks like when I click there. Okay, so this report is going to show, because of the way our criteria is set up, it is filtered and grouped by the person who was visited. You see the columns along the top, so the visit date will be listed in this column, who they were visited by will be in this column, the code for the reason for the visit and the location of the visit, any follow-up date, the duration of the visit. Okay, all of that is in these columns, so you'll see all of that stuff listed down below in here. Okay, so also, by the way, any comments that were entered for that personal visit will be listed kind of in italics underneath all of that information, underneath the text of that visit. You can also filter this. Now, our training data doesn't have a ton of stuff here for that time period, but if you use this part of the program a great deal, this can be a whole giant block of information here. So there are a number of ways you can limit this. So I'm going to close that window and let's come back to our original screen here. If you want to filter it by an individual, you can do that under this box here where it says person. You can search by name or really any part of their name. So if I wanted to see all of Jack Oliver's personal visit information, I can filter by his name here. When I click print, it's only going to show that. So also if Jack had multiple visits here, you will see a series of those listed on here. Okay, so that's one way you can do this. Now, a more kind of a useful way you can do this, you can also, let's say you have somebody in here. One of the things you can do with visits is schedule follow-up dates to have with somebody. So, you know, you visit somebody and you want to make a reminder to yourself that you may want to contact them in a month or in 6 months and kind of check up on them and see how they're doing. So you can also run this report based upon follow-up date. So if we did this, let's say I wanted to list a follow-up date of the last couple of months on here. Or you could even do it for a particular week or a particular month, that type of thing. When you print that, well, that actually ended up hitting everybody we got in the database here, but that filters based on follow-up date. So because of that, I also want to point out you can combine criteria on here. So in addition to filtering by follow-up date here, let's say it was only the senior pastor who was in the program, and the senior pastor wanted to generate a list of the follow-up dates for a particular time period. You could do that. So you do that by using that visited by column on here. Okay, clicking print. These are all of the ones with a follow-up date during that time period for the senior pastor. Okay. All right. So, you know, and these are all, if there's a particular comment, key comment that you want to go by, you can do searches based upon that. Anything that you see on this original screen here, you can filter your report with the search criteria that you see on here. Okay. So some of the other things you can control in terms of your report would be the output. You can come here to the tab along the top here that says columns. This allows you to control the output of your report. You see by default it's going to show you everything for this. If there was a particular bit of information you didn't care about, like the duration of the visit is not something you care about, you can select any field on this grid, use the arrow button that's pointing to the left here in the middle. It will remove that column from the visible columns portion of the screen and put it over here under available columns, so that now when I generate my report, that duration column will no longer show up here. So there was a duration column and that's been removed. So this allows you to control the data that's on your report. You can also change the order of things on here. So for example, if your reason for the visit, you can change order here using the arrow buttons over here to the right. So the order of the columns can be adjusted here. And if I move reason in front of visit date and visited by, when I generate my report, you'll see reason be the very first thing on your report there. Okay. The group and sort tab here determines the order that everything appears on your report here. The default version of this has it sorted by person visited, and notice this little checkbox over here to the right where it says group by field 1. Grouping by a field makes that little heading thing show up. So again, let me remind, when I do my print here, oh phooey, hold on. Let me go back to my default here. Get rid of this and do my print. The group by makes these little things here appear where it says person visited in bold, and then it shows things listed underneath there. If I get rid of that group by checkbox, it's just going to be sort of like a listing, just simply sorted that way, and it looks like this. So it just shows their name here, but it doesn't have that whole separated column. So that's just sort of a report formatting tool you can use there. So for example, if I wanted to do my follow-up date as my very first column, I could group by that. Then I could sort person visited as my second sort field, and you're looking at a different report here. Follow-up date is the follow-up date is the very first thing you see here that you group by, and it puts them all in the same place here. Okay. So that is the personal visits report. There is another little additional feature we've got in the membership module that we do want to point out at this point, specifically because we are talking about personal visits here. If we come here into the membership members window, you can get maps and directions off of the internet from anybody's record here in the system. So it just so happens the very first person's record here in membership members is Jack Oliver's record. Let's say we had a follow-up appointment with Jack and we were going to go to his house to do so. We see his house information listed here on the screen. And there's a little button up here at the top that looks like a little compass dial, this tiny little button right up here. That allows you to get a map to that person's house or generate directions. It's a link out to MapQuest.com. So if I click here, you can get driving directions from the church address to their household address. If you only select map, it's just their address is in a dot on the MapQuest website. But if we got driving directions, we click next. Opens us out to MapQuest. I noticed earlier there's our directions over to that person's house. You'll have your spelled out directions over here on the left side of the screen. You can print those, or heck, plug it into your cell phone. But that's a function that we have available here in Church Windows as well. Okay. That is the entire topic I've got to share with you guys here today. So I'd like to thank you so much for joining me. If you're all set to Rumble, feel free to go ahead and click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. That'll exit you out of the room and you can go ahead and get on with your day. I'm also going to leave the room open for a little bit at this point for any questions that you might have. So folks who are all set to go, thank you for joining me. I hope you have a lovely afternoon.